Hey, sis. Yeah, I know it's been a while, but our healing just cannot be rushed. My healing can't be rushed. It's one of the reasons why we are still cycling the residue of past trauma pains today because of the rush. See, the way we understand things, unfortunately, we've been taught to refuse to be patient. Although it makes perfect sense, actually doesn't make sense when you've been conditioned to live a patch me up life. Get it quick, get it done, so that we can get back to the hustle and bustle that rushing in time brings. But no one tells you that time actually can never be rushed. Our Creator set time so it could never be altered, and His creation and His function came from the beginning. We have been bred as a human race to focus on what was instead of what is. This is one reason why it is so hard to leave yesterday alone. And we remain stuck in the anticipation of tomorrow, almost forfeiting the blessing living consciously in today brings. Even if we experience pain, today has to still always be the best day of our life because we're on the other side of the worries of yesterday. Being conditioned to drag what was before our yesterday that we could never go back to again clouds our ability to experience the blessings that yesterday didn't snatch us. And even if tomorrow doesn't shine for you, you're here today. And it is a whole lot of day to be grateful for. But no one talks to us about that. No one tells us that all that waiting that we did on yesterday to get to today, that we should have enjoyed it. To wait means to defy the rush that man has pushed, that time will not circulate for us if we don't move fast. To rush our commitment to an appointed or appointed time makes us efficient, but it really doesn't. It actually forces us to age prematurely. It weakens us while stressing us at the mercy of anxiety. But it's something in the ability to stop and smell the roses. And even with allergies, it's the most incredible experience to allow yourself to pay homage to another one of God's beautiful creations of a bloomed flower. See, the reality is that the beauty of those bloomed flowers did not just skip its wait to be that beautiful. There is this passage in the Holy Bible's book of Isaiah, chapter 40, line 31, from the New Living Translation that reads, "But those who trust in the Lord will find new strength. They will soar high on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not faint." I find that each time that I encounter those words, my spirit slows down immediately, and I am forced to breathe. A breath that halts my physical to yield to my spiritual, and my soul has permission to be still. Why? Because the author, he's telling us to wait. When we wait, we actually receive time back. Actually. See, for waiting forces us to experience the clarity that sitting still brings. It's in this place where even the most chaotic moment has to yield to one's sitting disposition, where the body is finally allowed to experience stillness, even if someone may be in control of when that moment is interrupted. We were created as a species in the patience of our Creator. He didn't rush us, He thought us first. Then, when the time He chose was the best fit, He created us into the physical. But before we ever had a body, our spirits were created in the peace of His breath. That's why it feels so good to breathe on purpose, because the result is peace. Even if it's only for a few moments, peace has a way of forcing you into the result of waiting, not the opposite. Hmm. But unfortunately, for most of us, we never get to enjoy the opportunity to wait on anything. In a world that praises efficiency as a result of rushing time, they want quantity over the quality of peace. Call times, regardless the stress it will cost to get there. The lack of consideration comes with reprimand. See, what was brought to my attention was these specific words: do not lean to your own understanding. It was the own understanding part that convicted me spiritually, because in that moment that I understood it, Abba was bringing to my attention that the reason that it's so hard for us, well, for me to stay rooted in peace, is because I was trained in the time, in the notion that time continually draws on what I was taught to understand. And for me, that was survival. But at some point, I stopped cycling survival, calling it peace. Because in that moment, that survival wasn't as intense as I knew it to be. I misunderstood that slowdown for peace. But there was never any peace there. It was just a pause for the next moment of chaos to drag me back into that cycle of impatience. Because, see, patience is waiting, and waiting allows you to smell the roses. And I didn't have, nor could I even recognize the roses or any other flower, for a matter of fact. But peace, it slows you into time instead of forcing you to try and beat time. And then I realized the moment that I challenged myself to actually be still, hmm, that everyone deserves to experience peace. But then it seems so hard to achieve. But what would happen if we all knew that peace is actually our birthright? See, peace opens up a different type of patience that requires practicing it. Allow me to repeat that. See, peace directs you to the table of patience. Wait, let me say that again. Peace is not as easy to achieve when you've run all your life, because it requires you to do a bid of patience while you wait. That soaring high on wings like eagles is you allowing everything that disrupted your ability to wait before you sat down, to have a seat in trust, that was told to you by your flesh that was impossible, is now revealed in reality of that wait. See, the endurance it requires to run and not grow weary, and walk and not faint, that sounds like this flight produces strength and endurance. And I don't care what anybody says to you, but I know one thing: it is scary to trust God. Obedience is not for the weak, because it requires you to literally wait on what's next for God's agenda for your life, and not what everyone else says that you've lost. And it's especially hard at first because we've been breeding human life with the idea that we control time as a fact. But in reality, time doesn't actually exist. We must face the painful realities of the processes of alignment. Yeah, that word, alignment. But it's actually a process that really hurts, but the benefits of it is for our good. Because alignment is the weight of the adjustment that redirects you to your destiny. Most of us, half of all of us start in the lie that time waits for no one, when in actuality, the author of it actually does. See, He, God, Abba, Jehovah, Yahweh, the Creator, He waits until you decide to no longer be forced to live the counterfeit version of yourself, because the understanding that we've been leaning on has told us that it's impossible. See, it was obedience that forged me into alignment, which corrected my understanding. Let me tell you how. So, I'm in my early 40s, which is my fifth decade, right? And in my 30s, I was living false rules that were a manifestation of the lies of human life that derived from the decade of the 20s, that derived from that very first double decade from birth to 20, where all of the trauma that framed and shaped me into the counterfeit version of who I was not meant to be. I was groomed in the lies of trauma that I didn't have time, also that I wasn't worth time. So I imagined living, so imagine living that way for 4 full decades with the thought that your life was a waste of time that I actually never owned in the first place. Imagine the shock of learning that it never belonged to me or the people who told me that I didn't have it. This is where peace came in. See, peace is not something that was a conversation in my family ever. So I was never conditioned to be patient, peaceful, never understood that peace and patience are a very important aspect of daily living. See, when you live in peace, you understand the importance of protection. But if you grew up unprotected, you would not understand the value of being protected and the patience that comes with the overturn of everything that you were rushed into in the times before. Makes sense? See, as a species, we are always rushing and being conned into believing that if we don't finish our assignments before the sun goes back to the other side and the moon rises to light the night, then we're out of something that we were never in control of in the first place. See, the sun and the moon shined a long time before any human was dusted out of the earth. And in reality, because its system has nothing to do with what we do, its cycle is going to repeat itself over and over again without permission from me or you. See, God called it day and He called it night. What He didn't call it was beginning or ending. We did that. And as a result, we've learned not to wait, willing in gratitude, but to clock in anxiously. And I lived ruled by anxieties for most of my life. So I now value the beauty of peace because that protected space has set me free. So although it's uncomfortable, and I mean the most uncomfortable place, the benefits of the alignment during the process of becoming weightless is incredible. So it's still the waiting for me, because I still struggle sometimes because I didn't understand that time was not supposed to even exist in my world. I'm just supposed to go with the flow of life. But if you don't understand life in itself, then of course you would go with a preconditioned notion that you don't have what you never had in the first place. Think about that. See, in that same Holy Bible, the book, I was brought to the book of Proverbs, chapter 3, the verse 5 and 6. And as I began to understand the requirements that says to trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not to your own understanding, in all your ways acknowledge Him and He will make your path straight. Alignment. So if waiting causes me to have the ability to walk that straight path into my destiny instead of running crooked in the rush of time, then I'll take the wait for any moment. I get to live in destiny is worth the wait for me. Considering I've given so much of my destiny's time to someone else's unauthorized identity of me, I'll take How to Wait for the Lord for 100, Alex. Are you willing to trade time for the weight of your destiny?